one and all, I'm Alexis, aka the Soft Reader, and I'm here today to wrap up the audiobooks I listened to, numbers 6 through 10. I will leave the link down below to where I reviewed the first 5 audiobooks I listened to this month. I'm here to review the next 5. And of course, when I review my audiobooks, I'm talking about the specific quality of the audiobook, not necessarily the books themselves. If you do want to know more about how I felt about the individual books, you can check out the wrap-ups where these books fall into. Audiobook number 6 that I listened to was The Secret History by Donna Tartt, read by Donna Tartt herself. I am a big fan of when authors read their own books because I think it does a really good job because they know what it's supposed to sound like, right? Like they know how they envision their characters, and so I feel like they do a great job of bringing their characters to life. But Donna Tartt in particular has a very almost ethereal, dreamlike, slightly southern accented voice that I feel like fit the tone and the main character Richard in this book so well. This is like a 26 hour audiobook, I can't remember which one, and I honestly felt so sucked in by her narration because of how dreamy her voice is. And she didn't necessarily do like an over-exaggerated character voice for every different character, but the quality of her voice and how she changed certain words did help me know who was who. I would definitely give her narration about a 4 out of 5, just because I personally do really like it when every character has a different voice. But I feel like Donna Tartt's voice just worked so perfectly to the way that the story is told, what it's talked about, the different characters, Richard's inner monologues, just fit Donna Tartt's voice, or Donna Tartt's voice fit all of that just so well. So I would highly recommend the audiobook. Really. The only thing I didn't like about the audiobook is that the audiobook doesn't divide up chapters, and I don't have a physical copy of The Secret History, but I do believe there are legitimate chapters in that book. But for some reason, the audiobook just doesn't do chapters. It literally just does a continuous story. And that was frustrating for me because I usually like to end on a chapter. So if you're the kind of person like me that does get a little irritating, but otherwise I really enjoyed this audiobook. The 7th book I listened to this year was Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman, and this was narrated by Armie Hammer. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys, the reason I wanted to listen to this is because Armie Hammer has a really nice voice. His voice is about as nice as the rest of him. So if you like Armie Hammer's voice, I'd recommend this. He's not a stellar storyteller, to be honest. I feel like he missed a lot of really good moments for inflection and for characterization, and he really didn't do voices for any of the characters. They kind of all just sounded like Armie Hammer. There's a lot of Italian spoken in this book, and I don't speak Italian, so I can't say whether or not he butchered the language horribly or not. I can just say that whatever he was saying did sound really nice. So I would give his narration a 3 out of 5. Not terrible. I mean, it's worth listening to because it's Armie Hammer has a pretty sexy voice. I'm not gonna lie. But, it's not the best audiobook I've ever listened to. Audiobook number 8 is The Color Purple by Alice Walker, read by Alice Walker herself. And this, for me, was a great example of the narrator being the writer of the book, just sells it to you. The book itself has such a unique voice in its main character, and Alice Walker just brought that to life. The voice that she specifically uses for Celie, the main character, fits so well with how she wrote it to sound. But it's so good. I loved this audiobook. I think that this audiobook for me was a 5 out of 5. I loved it. It's definitely one of my favorite audiobooks. This is also one of my favorite books now. But just Alice Walker does such a great job selling Celie's story with her voice. And she doesn't necessarily do these over-exaggerated voices for every character. She does do different voices for characters, enough that you don't need to be told who's talking. But just her delivery on Celie's character, I don't think anybody but the author in this particular case could have sold Celie to me the way that Alice Walker did, because it's such a unique voice and she delivers it so well. I love The Color Purple now, okay? It's one of my new favorite books, and the audiobook was really, really good. Like I said, Alice Walker wrote the book. She knows how it's supposed to sound, and she delivered on that. Audiobook number 9 that I listened to this year was Soundless by Rochelle Mead, read by Kim My Guest. It's no surprise Kim My Guest is one of my favorite audiobook narrators. I just really like the voices she does, and I really like a lot of her delivery and a lot of her personality that comes through. Obviously, Soundless is a book that is written inspired by Chinese folklore and mythology, and the characters in it are Chinese. Kim My Guest is Vietnamese American, and she also speaks fluent French and Italian, which means that I think she does a really good job delivering on the words and the characters. She does do this entire audiobook in an accent, like an accented American, because obviously the book is written in English. But I felt like her delivery of the Chinese words used was really strong, and I really like that she chose to do an accent for all the characters, because for me it made the book feel a little bit more authentic. It made the book believable that I was hearing that accent in my head, and again, I really appreciated like the Chinese words and being able to hear them. I studied Chinese for 2.5 years. I'm terrible at it, but I do in some degree know how these words are supposed to sound, so I really appreciated Kim My Guest's delivery on those particular aspects. She did do voices for the different characters. She's very good at doing that. I would give her narration for this probably a 4.5 out of 5, and unfortunately the only reason I won't give this a 5 stars is because I think she was a little limited by the actual material. This was one of those cases where the actual book itself I think was limiting for her as a narrator. And audiobook number 10 was Dredd Nation by Justina Ireland, read by Bonnie Turpin, and I think Bonnie Turpin did a phenomenal job at this audiobook. She really, really got into the main character, Jane. Like, I felt like she brought Jane to life for me. She delivered the right amount of sass when Jane was delivering that sass. You know, she sounded upset and angry and exasperated and frustrated all at the right moments, and she really delivered on, I think, the emotional complexity of Jane's character. She did do voices for all of the rest of the characters that I really, really appreciated. I felt like I could easily identify if it was Catherine or Jackson or Mr. Gideon who was talking, because she definitely did different voices. And she did definite inflections for every single different character, which I really appreciated, especially because a big part of this book is race and class, and I feel like she did a great job of speaking different ways and using different tones and inflections to really deliver, you know, who was of what race, who was of what social class. And since that's a huge part of the book, I'm really glad that Miss Turpin went there with it, because I feel like it sold the book so much stronger for me. Alrighty guys, so those were the audiobooks 6 through 10 that I listened to in 2018. You guys know I really, really love audiobooks. I usually can listen to about 3 a month, so you'll probably hear me sometime in June talking more about the audiobooks that I've recently read. If you guys have listened to any audiobooks recently, or if you're interested in checking any of these out, please leave that down in the comments below. If you like what I do, I upload videos on Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, and I'll see you guys soon with another one. Bye!